Alabama. Alabama most likely will win a national championship again. And I didn't really give a national championship prediction before the season began, but I'm giving you guys one now. I'm rolling with the Tide. Roll, Tide, roll. And I know a lot of you guys are going to be like, oh, JT, you really going to make your championship pick based on, Alabama clobbering a not so great Miami Hurricanes team. Let me tell you guys something. And you guys can record this and come back to it. Alabama beat a really good Miami team. Okay, Miami has put the best football team on the field that they've had in a very long time. And I stand by that statement. Miami's going to win the Coastal. Miami should at least win 9-10 games this year. Alabama had a very good and convincing win against what should be a really solid and good Hurricanes football program this year. But when you look at Alabama, my biggest concern is going to be, okay, is Alabama going to be able to pick up from where they left off? And I've been saying this off season that I didn't really think they would. I think that Alabama would struggle at, the first half of the season. Well, it looks like I've been wrong. It looks like Alabama has indeed picked up from where they left off. And it's really crazy because, you would think that a team that loses so much eventually will have a point when you start a freshman QB and you have all these new faces on offense that, they would indeed struggle. But like a lot of you guys told me, Alabama has been doing this for years, but I did think that maybe there was a possibility that they could struggle against a very solid Miami Hurricanes team. Well, that didn't happen. They rolled and they rolled. I think roll may be an understatement. I think you can say Alabama Bulls. But when you look at Alabama's defensive line and you look at their front seven with Christopher Allen, Henry To'oTo'o, Christian Harris, Will Anderson, you look at their secondary with guys like Josh Jobe, Jordan Battle, Malachi Moore, I honestly feel like the only team in the SEC that is really going to give Alabama a competitive football game is going to be Georgia. Georgia is the only team that, as of right now, for what I've seen, it's actually going to legitimately be able to give Alabama a run for their money. I don't think it's going to be Texas A&M. I think Texas A&M is probably going to give them a fight, but I still think that Alabama will beat Texas A&M by at least 3 touchdowns or more. I still think Texas A&M has a ways to go. So when you look at Alabama, man, I think this team is probably, as of right now, the best team in college football. I mean, they dominated against a really good team. And I understand this week when, every good team has their struggles. Everybody's a little bit rusty and whatnot. But the fact that Alabama was able to roll the way they did against Miami is really impressive. So when I look at Alabama, man, you look at Bryce Young, and I told a lot of people, I said, listen, Bryce Young is going to be the best QB that Nick Saban has ever had. And a lot of people also saw this coming as well. And when you look at Bryce Young, he was 27 to 38 passing against Miami, 344 passing yards, had 4 touchdowns. He was very good, but what impressed me the most is how good he was under pressure. And that's why I compared Bryce Young to similar to a Russell Wilson. When he was blitzed against Miami, he was at his best. Literally. He also was very hard to bring down despite not being the biggest quarterback. He's only 5'11", 95 pounds or something like that. But he's very nimble. And on top of that, what impresses me more is the fact that we didn't really get to see him run the football all that much. When things were collapsing and things were breaking down, he had plenty of opportunities to just go ahead, tuck in and run. But instead, he decided to be patient, allow his wide receivers more time to get open. And instead of running the football, which we see a lot of freshmen do, a lot of freshman quarterbacks get in there. And instead of, when things break down, waiting for the wide receivers to get open, they just feel the need that they just have to go ahead, tuck in and run. Bryce Young looked like an experienced veteran. I was really blown out of this world with the way that Bryce Young handled himself against Miami. And like I said, Miami is going to be a really solid team. I believe that Miami will win the Coastal and that Miami probably will win at least 9 or 10 games this season. So when you look at Miami, I mean, that's a very solid team that Miami, they simply got rolled on. They got stamped and they got stampeded by Alabama. And I really don't think that there is going to be a team in the SEC that is going to match up well with Alabama during the regular season until the SEC championship game comes around, when most likely they're going to end up facing Georgia. Alabama is really good on front. Their offensive line is stout. Their front seven is stout. Like, I really don't see a team during this regular season that actually gives Alabama a legit test when Alabama's in a one-possession game heading into the fourth quarter. I really don't see it. And you can say JT is only week one. It's too premature to say that. Listen, I said this before the season started. If Alabama rolls against Miami, I expect them to be right back in the national championship game. Because this is an Alabama team that has indeed picked up from where they left off last year. And it's downright scary. And you want to know what's even more scarier? Nick Saban has Bryce Young for like 2 more years. So when you look at this Alabama team, man, like, this defense is absolutely loaded and it's scary. And like, Alabama fans over the last couple of years have been heavily critical on how their defense has performed. Hasn't really performed up to the level that we normally have seen out of Alabama a couple of years ago. But it looks like Alabama's defense is actually back and it's going to be a top 5, top 10 unit this year. And it could possibly be the best defense in college football. Either them or Georgia are going to be competing for that title because, boy, Alabama has some dogs. There are a lot of guys in this Alabama defense who are most indeed going to be first-round picks, and they're most indeed going to be playing on Sundays. Like, Alabama's defense is going to give people a lot of trouble. And remind you that Miami's offense is really talented. They have a really good running back room. They have a really good group of wide receivers. And their offensive line is way better than what you saw this past Saturday. You see, their offensive line performed the way they did because of Alabama. When Miami plays the next couple of games, you're going to be like, wow, okay, like, this wasn't the Miami team we saw against Alabama, simply for the fact because Alabama's just that good. And when Alabama steamrolls your team, if you're a Florida fan or you're an LSU fan and they steamroll you, you're going to be saying the exact same thing. You're going to be saying that Alabama is the best team in college football. You see, I've never really been sold on a preconceived notion that Oklahoma, like, this is their year. We saw what they did against Tulane. I understand it's week one. Everybody has different struggles and whatnot. But I think we just saw the reason why Nick Saban is considered the greatest coach in college football history. We've seen the reason why Alabama was ranked number 1 in the AP preseason polls. We see the reason why Alabama is the brand and the team that we know them for. This team is going to steamroll pretty much every single body they played this year. And I don't think we're going to see a lot of games that are going to go into the fourth quarter being one-possession games. I think Alabama probably, for the most part, is going to beat everybody they played this year by at least 3 touchdowns or more. And I would be really surprised if somebody gives them a really competitive game that comes down to the wire in the fourth quarter. I don't really see it happening this year until we get to the SEC championship game. So I think Alabama probably is going to end up winning the national championship again. And a lot of you guys can say it's too premature based on one week one game. Like, listen, Alabama's going to roll, okay? Like, I don't need 3 weeks to see if a team is a championship contending team or not, especially when it comes to freaking Alabama. Alabama has already proved me wrong. I didn't think that Alabama would be able to come out right away and dominate Miami offensively the way they did. I thought that Miami's defense would be able to give Alabama a difficult time in the first half of that game due to having a freshman quarterback and a lot of new faces on offense. But you know what Alabama did? They rolled. I mean, like, they scored on almost every single possession. Their first couple possessions against Miami, they put points on the board. So they had already proved me wrong at the start of the game. After the first quarter, Alabama already proved me wrong. My biggest doubt for Alabama this season was, are they going to be able to pick up from where they left off at the start of the season, week one? And they did. So, I mean, when I look at Alabama, they already proved me wrong. I don't need 3, 4, 5 weeks to figure out that Alabama is the best team in college football. All I needed was one half, and I already have my consumption on how good this Bama team is going to be. And you could make the argument, say that Alabama could be better this season than what they were last year. You want to know why? Because their defense is also going to be really good also. So when I look at Alabama, Jesus, if you're an LSU fan, oh God, if you're a Texas A&M fan, whoo. Okay, I don't think Texas A&M is going to give Alabama the game that a lot of people think they are. And if you're a Florida fan, you have to play Alabama in the next couple of weeks. Whoo! I'm glad we don't have to play Alabama again. If you have Alabama on your schedule coming up, you should be extremely concerned, because I think that Alabama is going to embarrass almost every single body they play this single year. Alabama is my lock for the championship this year. I think Alabama is going to win it all. I know it's really early. I know it's week 1, but I think at this point, in my head, there's just nothing that I can see Alabama having go wrong. I just think Alabama's just going to be physically dominant than the majority of teams are going to play. You're already a mismatch against the majority of teams who play simply for the fact of how good their front seven is. There's not too many offensive lines who are going to be able to defend a Christopher Allen, a Henry To'oTo'o, a Christian Harris, or Will Anderson coming at you. Like we saw what happened to Clemson. Clemson has the best offensive line in the ACC. And they got train wrecked by Georgia. They allowed, 7-8 sacks Saturday night? So, I see a similar game. I see Alabama dominating teams the same way we saw Georgia dominating Clemson. I don't think that's just some one-off week 1 rust. I just obviously think that Alabama is going to train wreck a lot of teams. And it's going to start up front, because I don't think there are too many teams in the SEC that are going to have the offensive line capable of stopping Alabama's front seven. This just isn't your normal front seven. Normally, you have a front seven that may have 2 guys who are eligible for the NFL draft who are going to be high draft picks. But you can make the argument to say that this whole entire front seven probably is going to be first rounders at some point whenever they declare for the NFL. So, there's not too many teams in America that can, stand up to the front seven that Alabama has. So, when you look at Alabama, man, a lot of you guys keep saying that Nick Saban's dominance is going to come to an end soon. Well, I don't know when you guys think soon is, but I don't think it's going to happen this year, because I think Alabama, once again, is going to repeat as national champions.